Welcome to Pathway. We're so glad you're with us today. If you're new here, we'd love to get to know you. We invite you to fill out a digital Connect card on the PCC at Home app or pccfw.tv, or text the word Connect to Pathway text number. To all of you who have continued to give support financially during this time, we want to say thank you. We're so grateful, and we want you to know that from online worship to Pathway groups to community outreach, your generosity has made ministry possible. If you'd like to give, there are several ways you can do that. There are give buttons on our website at pccfw.tv and on the PCC at Home mobile app. You can also text the word give to our text number, or you can mail a check to the PCC office. For all the latest COVID-related updates, be sure to visit our website. Just click the red banner at the top of the page to view new announcements and find quick links for Kid City Online, content for students, adults, and more. You can also access all of this through the COVID link on the PCC at Home app. As always, our services will continue to air at pccfw.tv, so if your health is vulnerable, we hope you'll continue to be part of our online community. Thanks again for choosing to show up here.
Silences the enemy. Let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We sing your name in the dark and it changes everything. We sing with all we are and we claim your victory. Let it rise. Breakthroughs on our side, forever lift you high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, let faith be the song that overcomes a raging sea. Let faith be the song that calms the storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let faith arise. Faith arise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift you high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, let's sing this out. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift you high. With all creation breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift you high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Amen.
I don't know about any of you, but lately I have definitely been finding myself emotionally scattered, and it kind of is a reflection of my circumstances and the circumstances around us. And I noticed that when that happens, I tend to lose sight of the truth of God's promises and who He is and who He says that I am in Him. And I let my circumstances define who He is. And as we go into this next song, we're going to be singing about how we're going to sing, all your promises are yes and amen, and what it means to declare that truth, that God is who He says He is. Despite what I feel, despite what's going on around me, despite what other people might say, God is who He is. And so as we go into this, I don't just want us to sing this just because the words are on the screen and it's a Sunday morning, but because we're actually declaring this, that this is who our God is. And so I'm going to read you a list of some characteristics of God that I just want to remind myself and all of you today. God is creator. God is sustainer. God is good and He is holy. God is kind. He is merciful and gracious. God is patient with us. He is peace. God is full of compassion. He is just. God is love. God is the Alpha and the Omega. God is all-powerful. He is all-knowing. God is steadfast. He is the way, the truth, and the life. He is Emmanuel, God with us. And He is our Redeemer. And He is worthy of all praise and honor and glory forever. Amen? Amen? Let's sing faithful together. And faithful you are, and faithful forever you will be. Faithful you are, and all your promises are yes and amen. And all your promises are yes and amen. Father of kindness, and Father of kindness, you have poured out grace. You brought me out of darkness. You have filled me with peace. Giver of mercy, you're my help in time of need. And Lord, I can't help but sing. Come on. And faithful you are. Yes, faithful forever you will be. And faithful you are. And all your promises are yes and amen. And all your promises are yes and amen. Sing beautiful Savior. And beautiful Savior, you have brought me near. You pulled me from the ashes. You have broken every curse. And blessed Redeemer, you have set this captive free. Come on. And Lord, I can't help but sing. is your faithfulness, and
I will rest
in your
promises. My confidence
is your
faithfulness, and I will rest in your promises. My confidence is your faithfulness. Promises are yes and amen.
I just want to thank all of you here this morning, as well as those of you that are online. Just very grateful this morning for the fact that you're with us today. And we know that we're in a really strange season as a church. We're in a strange season, certainly as it relates to our culture and our society. And we're just doing our best to make what we believe are the best decisions we can make in light of all this. And I want to tell you, it's been a challenging week to make those decisions. Our elder team got together. We decided to be here this weekend. Next weekend, obviously, we'll not be here, but we'll be online. And for those of you that are choosing to be online, we're glad that you're online. Stay online. I think that as we walk through the day, hopefully this will be meaningful to all of us as well. How many of you have ever been in a situation where you've had to ask yourself this question, real simple question, and that is just simply this question, and it's, who can I trust? Anybody been there lately? I mean, we all have in one way or the other. I mean, who can I really trust? And maybe it's in light of our current day challenges that we're up against. Maybe it has to do with the fact that you find yourself in a really difficult spot. You got different opinions coming your way, and you begin to ask that question, well, who do I trust on this one? Who can I trust on this one? For me, there were times as a dad when I had to convince my kids they could trust me. And typically, those moments came when they were little. I think there are still moments when they're this big too, but I remember particularly the moment when they were learning how to ride their bike. And, you're trying to teach your kids how to ride a bike, and you're wanting to, let them know that you're going to be close to them, you're going to be near to them, you're not going to fail them, you're not going to let them fall, and you put one hand on that seat, and they've got both hands on that steering wheel, and they're gripping that little wheel, those not the steering wheel, but the handlebars, and they're gripping that thing with all they've got, because fear causes us to move into control, is what it does, and they're hanging on to that thing, and I can remember, even though there was a sense of anticipation inside of them, that it wasn't uncommon for one of them to say, Dad, don't let go, and I'm not going to let go, and then you finally say to them, I'm not going to let go yet, and then eventually you do let go, and they take off, and sometimes they wipe out, sometimes they do well, sometimes they keep on going. I don't remember having training wheels as a kid. We didn't have helmets as a kid. I remember the bike. It was a red bike. All four of us kids learned to ride on that bicycle. And all I remember is my brother Rick one day getting out with me, and he says, you're going to ride that bike today. And I'm thinking, okay. And I get on it, and I said the same thing to him that my kids said to me. Don't let go. Stay with me. And the next thing I know, I was let go, and there I was running down the street on this bike, and just finding a sense of delight as a response of it, as a result of it. But we've all had those moments when we've had to tell our kids, maybe you can trust me, We've had those moments we've had to tell others, you can trust me. But at some point in those moments, you've got to let go. You've got to let go. Now, what about in those moments when you've asked the question to God, can I trust you? Those moments when you might find yourself in a point of great difficulty and you begin to wonder, God, what are you doing in the midst of all this? And what are you really proving in the midst of all this? And what are you working in the midst of all this? And can I really trust you in this? Can I really trust you in this? And I just want to say to all of you, I don't know where you're at this morning within the context of the season that you may find yourself in, but I just want to affirm to you this morning as we walk into Thanksgiving, just this little standalone today, and that is that you can trust God. You can trust Him. You can trust everything that we sung about this morning. You can trust in His faithfulness. You can trust in His goodness. You can trust in His love. You can trust in His kindness. You can trust in His mercy. You can trust in His justice. You can trust in His presence no matter where you are and no matter what is going on in that moment. You can trust. A few weeks ago, I got up in the morning, and my ritual in the morning is to get up and I make a little espresso, and I drink my little espresso. Then I go back and I make another espresso because I need to be fully leaded, and I drink that espresso. And then I sit down, and typically every morning I pick up this little book that somebody gave to me years ago called New Morning Mercies by Paul Tripp. I've talked about it before. And I very seldom miss a day in that book, and have very seldom missed a day in that book over the past number of years. I mean, for that day of the week, it has a certain read that goes with it, and they're always deep, they're always meaningful. I've read them now 4 years in a row, and every time I read one, it's still as fresh as it was the first time I read it. And the other day, I opened up the page, and the first thought that was on that page was really the big idea that I want to give you this morning. And it's simply this, that God meets me where I am. That God meets you where you're at. That He meets me where I am. And as I began to think about that thought, and I began to think about all that I've been through and just within my life and the seasons that I've gone through, I had to sit back for a moment, and I just began to reflect in those moments when maybe I doubted God in that moment. Maybe I questioned my trust in Him. Can I really trust you on this? That God proved Himself time and time again that He was meeting me where I was in that moment. That God meets us where we are in that moment. We don't go meet Him. I mean, and actually that's probably a good thing in some ways. And I mean, if that happens, you're done here and then you're meeting with Him there. But He meets you where you're at within the context, the moment you find yourself in. And as I thought about that, I thought about a couple things that I just thought for Thanksgiving I could kind of give to you this morning. And here they are. Here's the first one. And that is because God meets us where we're at, we can hold on to this promise that we can draw near to Him. That we can draw near to Him. Matter of fact, Jesus talks about it. The Lord talks about it within the context of His Word. Various times we're reminded of His very presence and the importance of drawing near to His presence and in all sorts of seasons within our life. Matthew 28:20, Jesus leaves these words, I am with you always to the very end of the age. And what's interesting about this little verse here in Matthew 28:20 is these are the last words that Matthew records between Jesus and His disciples before He ascends. He's given them the Great Commission. He's told them to go out into all the world, that you're going to share the gospel, that you're going to share this gospel in such a way the entire world is going to hear this gospel. He's told them that in this life you're going to have trouble, that in this life you're going to be persecuted, that in this life you're going to go through trials and difficulties and hardships and temptations. And then He says this, but in light of all that, I'm commissioning you to go and do this one, but I don't want you to forget that whatever it is that you're about to walk through, that I am with you always to the very end of the age, that God meets us where we are at. Psalm 139, David knew this so well that when you read the Psalms, you see this understanding from David of understanding the proximity of God no matter where he's at and no matter what he's walking through, and understanding really who God is in the midst of all that. Psalm 139, I love Psalm 139. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there, your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. God, it doesn't matter where I go. You're meeting me where I'm at. You're right there in that moment. And then Paul gives us these words of just great comfort, but also great command in Philippians 4, 5, and 6. He says, let your gentleness be evident to all. How are you doing on that one these days? How are you doing on that one with those who may not agree with you or those who you don't agree with? How are you doing on that one these days? Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. He's near. Do not be anxious then about anything. Why'd you get yourself all bent out of shape on this stuff? Why are you allowing fear to consume your life? Do not be anxious about anything. It's hard to do, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. He said, listen, when you find yourself in a situation where you're sensing that anxiety is beginning to come over you and you're allowing fear to begin to control you, step back, recognize the Lord is near, and then draw near to him. Through your prayers and through your petitions and with thanksgiving of looking back at all the ways in which you've seen God present in your life up to this point, then begin to realize He's been with you there. He's certainly with you in this moment as well. And then just simply present those things to God, that God meets me where I am. Understand this. This is really important, that you will never go where God is not. You'll never go where God is not. And the reality is this, and that is that life has a way of just kind of turning and changing on a dime. We live moment by moment. We don't think about this often, but many times, the times in our life, when our life when it takes a turn, it typically is not a gradual turn. Sometimes, maybe it's through a diagnosis that you receive that is in a moment where everything changes, and the doctor comes into the room and he says, I've got some news for you. And suddenly you're going, okay, what do I do with this? Sometimes you might see changes coming your way, but many times it's just in a moment. I saw Megan and John Eaker. Where are you guys at? Maybe you're upstairs. You down here? Oh, there you are. Yeah, John was in a horrific car accident a few weeks ago. Shouldn't even be here. And in that moment, everything changed in that moment. And yet, in talking with John, it was remarkable to talk with him later that day and just to hear him talk about how he sensed the very presence of God throughout that whole incident was taking place. Amen. God meets you where you are in that moment. In life, it changes in a moment. And you could be going one moment, suddenly another moment can just suddenly alter your life altogether. A couple weeks ago, Michael and Vicki Sperry, Michael, who really heads up our online ministry and does a fantastic job with it and has been doing this for a number of years and really got us on board to get us ready. Really, we didn't realize for COVID and all that was going to happen with that, where we need to be online. And a couple weeks ago, Michael and Vicki's son, Jacob, who's been a part of this church since he was 10 years old, he died that morning. And I remember hearing from Michael and getting over to their house and waiting for them to show up at the house and them walking in and us sitting down and just beginning to process this sudden moment of life change and with Caleb and with Wes, his brothers, and beginning to reflect on this. Life changed in a moment, and we just found ourselves just drawing near to God in that moment. Just bring it to God in this moment. We honored Jacob, we honored his life, and we celebrated his life the following Wednesday. And then Michael's sister, Tracy, who is a part of our online community and actually serves our online community, her and her son went back home that Saturday night. And that Saturday evening, Tracy's life changed. Her son, Evan, in an accident, and was gone. Entire family in that moment. And there were moments over these past few days through the course of this week as they're just processing Evan's life and as they're having to make life-altering decisions, there were just some moments with Tracy in just texting her back and forth where all I could say is, Tracy, the Lord is near. I just want you to know that. The Lord is near. In a moment, life can change. The Lord is near. And many times, we find ourselves more present in our problems instead of remembering who is present with us in our problems. And what ends up happening is this, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody else is, and that is that we begin to find ourselves and we allow the problems to begin to consume us, or we allow the world to frustrate us, or we find our emotions and our minds being taken captive by the circumstances that encircle us, instead of stepping back in that moment and saying, listen, I realize that we're in the midst of this moment that feels all so consuming. Are we going to be consumed by this, or at what point do we realize, wait a minute, the Lord is near in it with us, and I'm going to draw near to him. I'm going to trust in his faithfulness, and I'm going to trust in his goodness, and I'm going to trust in his presence. I'm going to trust he's got a plan. I'm going to trust he's going to work it out. I'm going to trust him with me in this moment. Maybe it's a physical issue. Maybe it's an emotional issue. Maybe it's a challenge right now going on within your life as a mental well-being issue. Maybe you're wrestling with the reality of your own life, and does it really matter? It does matter. It matters to those around you. It matters to God. You matter to him. The cross is a reflection of that, of how he expressed his love to you. It matters if you're gripped with fear. It may be a situation of relational challenge that you're into right now. Maybe your marriage is being challenged right now. Maybe you're at a point of great division with each other, and you're just being encircled by it, being consumed by it, rather than saying, wait a minute here. The Lord is near. Let's put him in the middle of this. And let's trust him with this. And let's draw near to him with this. Because he's near. Are you thankful the Lord is near to all that you're, are you thankful for that this morning? I hope that you are. Yeah, so the Lord is near. One writer put it so well. He comes to you in your fear. He draws near to you when you are separated. He meets you in your doubt. He pursues you when you wander. When you sin, he comes to you with conviction and forgiveness. He empowers you when you're weak. He restores you when you're unfaithful. When you deny him, he does not deny you. He comes to you at the moment of your salvation. He comes to you again and again as you journey through this life. He sits down with you, assuring you again of his love, drawing out of you love for him, and sending you on your way to the work that he has chosen for you to do. He does not wait for you to come to you. He comes to you. He is near. And so because he's near, let me just give you the second to think about this weekend, and that is just be present in his presence. Be present in his presence. Be present with him. The Lord is near. I think of one person, when you look through Scripture, you see this. You see it in the life of Joseph, the Lord being near through the narrative of his life. You see it in Moses through certainly a cloud of fire and a pillar of fire and a cloud during the day. And man, I wish that God would show up that way in my life just to give me a understand. Are you really there? Can I really trust you? I'm right here. You can see me right here. It doesn't do that for me. But we see it in Moses' life. We see it certainly in David's life, where David learned as a young lad that I can trust the Lord, that he took care of the lion, he took care of the bear, and then he took care of the giant, and then he took care of Saul, and he took care of all the challenges he was faced with in his life. And he took care of that moment when David found himself at a distance from God because of a sinful decision that he made, knowing the Lord was still near and drawing him back to himself. And David wrote about this time and time again, especially within the Psalms. Just a couple little Psalms to think about this morning. Psalm 27, verse 1. It says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" Psalm 46, I love Psalm 46. It says that God is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help, always near, always there, an ever-present help in trouble. Now just think about those two verses. And all that David lists about the Lord, that the Lord is my light, that he lights my way, that Jesus Christ came, that he was the light of the world, that he is my salvation, that he saves my soul, that he is a stronghold, and the stronghold was there to protect us. And so he's there to protect us against the lies of the evil one and those attacks that come our way. And he's a refuge. In other words, he shelters me, and in sheltering me, he settles me, because I know that he's near, and I know that he's got a reason for all this. I know that he's present in all this, that he's my strength, that he empowers me within the context of my weakness. David lived with this confidence the Lord was near. And then you see that even lived out in his son's life, Solomon. Dad, you think that your faith doesn't get passed on to your kids? It gets passed on to your kids. They see it in your life. They see your trust. They see your dependence in the Lord within your life. And so Solomon even writes about the importance of just really trusting in the Lord. In Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, where he says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In other words, make certain that you don't lean on what you know about yourself. Make certain you lean in on what you know about God because of the intimate relationship that you have cultivated with Jesus. And in all your ways, then you submit to him because you know you can trust him. You know you can trust his character. You know you can trust his presence. You know you can trust his plan. And he will then make your path straight. He'll make sense out of all of it. He'll give you some sense in the midst of all of it. And sometimes that's hard to find, but it's there. But he says, trust in the Lord with all. That word trust, go to the next slide, is an interesting word because it's the word batak in the Hebrew. And I'm not a Hebrew scholar, but in doing a little word study on this word this past week, when you look into the Hebrew, you see 7 letters there, but actually there's only 3 letters there in the Hebrew. And the Hebrew language is a language that they tend to bring a lot of pictures into play with each of the letters. And so when you begin to understand the letters of the word trust, it's the first letter is the word bet, which means inside. And the image that we're given here is being inside of a home. In Solomon's day, this wouldn't have been a home in Solomon's day. It would have been a tent is what it would have been. And aren't you thankful you don't live then? But this is it's a home. This is our Western idea of a home. And when you're in a home is safe. A home is a place where you live. A home is a place where you live freely and you laugh and you cry together and you enjoy each other. And there's this element of trusting in the Lord, of just being able to rest within who he is and trust in him. And the second letter to trust is the word tet. And it means to be wrapped. It's a picture of a little baby being wrapped in swaddling clothes. When I saw this picture, I had to go back and just remember for 3 of my 4, because when we got Bella, she was 10 months old, so she wasn't being wrapped in anything, and she wasn't going to be wrapped in nothing anyway. But I remember these moments with my other 3 where we would wrap them really tight, and when you wrapped them tight, it's like being in this cocoon, and it just brought a sense of comfort their way. It's trusting in the shelter of his care, his refuge. It's being wrapped in his goodness, in his faithfulness, in his love, in his mercy, in his kindness, in his justice, and his forgiveness, the truth of his word. And there's this third letter, which is chet. It means fence. It talks about a fence. It means the boundaries that God places around us through those commands and those principles that we find within his word that keep us safe, but also protect us from what comes from the outside, the evil one from the outside. And so when you think about this idea of trust, whenever you see trust, 19 times within the context of the Old Testament, when you see trust, when trust is communicated this way, conveyed this way, it always follows within, to trust in. So to trust in the Lord, to be wrapped in his goodness and his faithfulness and his love and his grace, and to be protected by the boundaries of truth. And so when you trust him that way with all your heart, you begin to lean in on what you know about him in light of the circumstances that may surround you within that moment. Who do you trust in? What do you trust in? Draw near to him. Draw near to him, and then be present. Be present in his presence. Just be present. No, okay, God, you got a plan in this. Just be present in his presence right now. And now as you walk into this week, whatever this week holds for you, let me just give you the third, and then we're done. And that is that then be his presence to others. when you're trusting in him, it doesn't mean all life is great and all life is fun, but it means you're living with this confidence, this assurance that God, you've got a plan and all this. Be present to others in this moment. You have no idea how God is going to use the story that is weaving in your life to impact someone else's life. And just to be present, be his presence to others. Jesus teaches us how to do this. There's one moment, there's actually several moments, but one is in Luke 13. Jesus is teaching in the synagogue. It's on the Sabbath. And so many times when you look into the Gospels, you see Jesus doing these healings on the Sabbath, doing work on the Sabbath, which would totally frustrate the rabbis to no end, because you're not supposed to do anything on the Sabbath. But Jesus, he was going to do what he was going to do. So on the Sabbath, Jesus was teaching in one of the synagogues, and a woman was there who had been crippled by a spirit for 18 years. She was bent over. She could not straighten up. And when Jesus saw her, he called her forward and he said to her, "Woman, you are set free from the infirmity." And then he put his hands on her, and immediately she straightened up and praised God. I love what the text says. When Jesus saw her. He lived with such a pace in his life that he could stop to see her. That he saw her. I live at times with a pace in my life where I miss it. I miss others. I have to admit to you that sometimes I live with that kind of pace, that I miss my own kids. That we're just kind of passing in the midst of the night, it feels like at times, and I can miss those that I care about. I can miss those that are around me. It's just easy to do, and yet what Jesus challenges us here is to live, to be present in his presence, but to be his presence to others, just to live with such a pace that you begin to notice others, that Jesus saw her. So around here, we just really encourage you, maybe as you walk into the season and walk into these next number of days, that maybe you ask God to open up your eyes so that you can be his presence to others that just may need a sense of his presence in the midst of all this. One thing we talk about around here is this whole bless idea, and that is that as you think about your neighbors, as you think about saturating the gospel into our own neighborhoods within our city, that maybe you just, as you're taking your walks, or as you're heading to the store, as you're doing whatever it is, that you stop long enough to realize, God, I know you're present I know you're present in this moment with me. I want to be present with you in this moment, and I want to be your presence to others around me. So maybe that's the beginning of praying that way. Or maybe it's when you do encounter someone, and you say, okay, maybe here's an opportunity to be his presence in this moment, and you begin to pray, and then you move into a point where you begin to develop a relationship where you can listen to them. Maybe eat with them. Then begin to serve them. And then maybe God will open up the opportunity to share with them. Last week we had True Vine Weekend. This morning I got a picture of Dan and Sarah Jones, Dan, Sarah, and Audrey Jones, and Owen. Through COVID, through this whole deal, the Joneses adopted Owen. God blessed them with another one along the way. And I think we can applaud that this morning. I mean, they just, and again, it was a way of them being present in the Lord's presence. God, what do you want for us in this season? What do you want to do for us in this season? Owen comes around and they say, you know what, God, obviously we've got our eyes open for how you want to use us in his little life, and we're going to bring him into our life and into our family, and he's going to be part of this forever family. Just a wonderful, wonderful picture of being present with those around. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's a medical worker. Maybe it's a first responder. Maybe it's a family in need that you begin to reach out. And maybe, just maybe, in the midst of all this, it may be those that live right around you. As a church, we've really worked hard through COVID to help you notice those around you and notice those that are around us within the context of even our city. And so, you've given of your money. We've been able to assist those through your stewardship to come alongside of those who have financial needs. And it's been a blessing to do that. There's one family in particular that I got really engaged with over the past month. And it's just been exciting to be a part of a church that takes care of a family that's not a part of our church, and we're able to be Jesus to this family who desperately needs to sense the presence of Jesus in the midst of their moment. You did it through all the boxes that you gave, through Fort Wayne United, 1,000 boxes of food that you gave that we're able to come alongside of about 1,000 families in just a moment of just being a little bit of his presence to those around. The giving tree that's out there is an opportunity for you to be his presence to those by giving presents to those who want a present at Christmas, but to be his presence in those moments. At the end of this year, we're going to talk to you a little bit, and we'll talk more about it next week, about just a year-end opportunity that we believe that we have to actually be a bigger presence in our community through just the issue of food distribution and really meeting people's needs as Jesus would have us meet their needs that way. And we're going to give you some more information as that goes along next week and the weeks to come for our year-end, because we're real excited about what this is going to mean and come alongside of other ministries in our city that are being very benevolent, and they're coming alongside of their neighbors who have tremendous needs in this season and in every season. We want to be that kind of church that comes alongside of others as well. But maybe, just maybe, it's a neighbor that you see, and God says, stop long enough to notice. I mentioned to you a number of weeks ago, and it's kind of a story that continues to emerge, and I'm just going to wrap it up with this, is my neighbor, my elderly lady that one day I'm walking down the street. She lives on the way distance over away from me, and she's pulling her garbage can back, and I'm seeing her, and she's stooped over, and I'm thinking the garbage can's going to take her over if I don't get to her fast. And so I'm walking really fast, and I said, ma'am, can I help you with the can? And she said, oh, that would be great. And so I pulled it into the garage, and I said, do you bring this out every week? And she said, yeah. And I said, you bring it back every week? And she said, yeah. And I said, and you live alone? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, listen, my name's Ron. I live in the addition. I come by here almost every day on a walk or a run. And I said, I will bring it out for you, and I will take it back for you if that would be, oh, that'd be great if you would do that. So let me give you my number. Gave her my phone number. And over the past number of weeks, over the past couple of months, I've just built this relationship with this woman of trust. Getting to know her, letting her get to know me. She had no idea what I did. I didn't want to tell her what I did. Can oftentimes end the conversation, And then one day she asked me, what do you do? We've done things for her, getting her some bread and baking her some cookies, and her door was a mess. Her back door, patio door, was a mess. And I brought one of the guys over here from our ministry that comes alongside of widows and those in need, and we do some home repairs. And we looked at the door, and Todd said, man, we got to replace this whole door. And so we went out and got her a whole new door. We were over there yesterday to put the door in, She said, I just can't thank you for all that you're doing for us. What do you do for me? What do you do? Well, I'm a pastor. You're a pastor? I said, yeah. We started talking about that a little bit, processing that through, and just talking, and she said, I'm just humbled. I'm overwhelmed. So yesterday, Todd and I showed up to put the new door in, and she was sitting back by the door, and I said, hey, we need to move you. You need to get moved to another space because we're going to take this door out, and it's going to get cold, and you need to make a move. So she started to make a move. Todd and I are getting some of the framing off, and all we hear is help, help. I run in, and she's on the floor. Ambulance ride, all day in the ER, admitting her into her room, surgery this morning. And all day yesterday, I'm with this new friend, and I'm learning more about her in those hours than most people ever learn about their mom in a lifetime. And there were moments of just stopping and praying. A moment on the floor where she just crying out. Todd and I just sit there and we just start praying over her. There are moments in that ER room where we had moments of conversation and talking about life and talking about eternity. Is this it? I don't think this is it. I think we're going to get through this. I think you'll get through this. This could be it. It could be it. Are you ready if it is it? I think so. Let's figure that out. Let's talk about that. So we did. Of just caring. Of realizing and reminding her in that moment. It's crazy sometimes when I think about what I get to do. And here I am all week long. I'm doing this message. I'm preparing this message. I'm going to deliver this message. And what I could tell her in that moment is, Carol, the Lord is near. Let's just be present. And doing my best to be his presence in that moment. So, who do you trust in today? Who do you trust in today with all the stuff that's going around? Who is it that you're putting your trust in? Psalm 73, 25 through 28 reads this way. Let's stand together. It says, whom I heaven but you, and earth has nothing I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. And those who are far from you will perish. You destroy all who are unfaithful to you. But God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Those who are far from you, they'll perish, but you destroy all who are unfaithful to you. But as for me, it is good to be near God. I have made the sovereign Lord my refuge. I will tell of all of your deeds. Lord, thank you for being near. Lord Jesus, thank you for reminding us that you would be with us always, that promise was not only to those that day before you ascended, that promise is for us today, that you are with us. We're grateful for the presence of your Holy Spirit within us, leading us and guiding us and comforting us and encouraging us and challenging us and at times convicting us. We're thankful for the presence of the body of Christ, of being able to come together to be your presence to others around us. We're thankful for that, Lord, for the encouragement we receive, for the strength that we receive through that, through the hope of others growing and coming together. We're thankful for your promises of your goodness and of your faithfulness and of your kindness and of your justice. I think of Mike and Vicki this morning. I think of Tracy this morning. And I pray, Lord, that they would sense in the midst of their loss your comfort. I think of so many in this body this Thanksgiving who will not have someone sitting at the table that was sitting at the table last year. And I pray they would sense your presence in meaningful ways, simple ways and profound ways. For those who do have someone sitting at the table who might not have been sitting at the table if circumstances would have been different. Lord, we're thankful for that. Thankful for my friend, for the opportunity you've given me to be hopefully a vivid example of your kindness and your goodness. Help us all to live with the awareness that we can be your presence to those around us. We love you. We thank you. We praise you. And we just sing this song back to you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All my
I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, and in darkest night, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Sing all my life. And all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I'll give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me.
And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God.
All right, let's pray one more time. Lord, thanks again for the goodness. I want to just lift up certainly those that are our first responders, our medical staff that are around our city, and some, a lot of them right here within the context of our community and this church. I pray you'd give them protection and blessing and mercy and kindness and goodness in the midst of all this. And that, Lord, they would sense that you're using them to be your presence to those who desperately need to know that today. We love you. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. See you later, everybody. Every week.
Thank you again for worshiping with us today. If you'd like someone to pray with you, there are members of our church online team or our staff who would love to do that. Simply click on the live prayer button at pccfw.tv or click the conversation bubble on the PCC at Home app. We encourage you to continue your worship through giving. Just click the Give button on the web or the app, or text the word GIVE. Finally, be sure to check the web or the app for the latest updates and at-home resources. We also share many updates through Facebook, Instagram, and our weekly e-news, so be sure to follow or subscribe. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.